Welcome to RPGameFire, another review of an amazing Dungeon & Dragon game, and also co-op, and thematically very challenging and strategic, made by Catalyst Games and Dungeons & Dragons. And Dungeons & Dragons has made previously card deck building kind of game, which was Tyrants of the Underdark, but it's more of a challenging game, unlike this one, which is more co-op and group oriented and brings the real feel of Dungeons & Dragons, where you are wandering into the labyrinths and dungeons and exploring the Sword Coast with your friends or even solo. It's a challenging game. It has received some bad vibes, but all with misunderstandings, and let me explain why. Because this game is thematically amazing, it's well designed in my opinion, and it hits the right spots for those that are looking for a group deck building Dungeons and Dragons adventure into Sword Coast, or doing dungeon crawls. You could do one-time missions and etc. In this core box you will get up to 7 different missions or adventures, they're called. 5 of them are campaign oriented. Yes, there's a campaign also, and I'll get into depth about that. This game holds really in depth. It does use the core mechanics from Shadowrun Crossfire, which is another Catalyst games that they made. It has a similar kind of mechanics, but this is more of a watered down but less challenging in any way. It actually is very challenging, but that is one of the many misunderstandings. This game is not a cakewalk. It is made to be strategic, and it's made to think in order to win, and you need to communicate with your group, and when you're playing solo, you need to pretty much understand what are the strengths and weaknesses of the other characters. Now, thematically so, there is many characters and many creatures in this game which are provided, and I'll get later on in my thoughts about those things which advance the depth of this game in many ways. So so let's see what this game has more to offer. And when you first open this box, you'll see contents like any other board game that you open up. You'll see some pamphlet, or you'll see the rule books, and usually the first thing in any D&D game you'll see this. And in other D&D board games like Wrath of Asharla, Castle Ravenloft, which I advise checking out, Legend of Drizzt, the Mad Mage, and all their products and contents are always mergeable, and meaning that you can put them together and create a greater adventure than the ones that are given within the box. And this one pretty much says it all. Seize the adventure. It's time to build your own legend. And let me say, you guys can make a great legend with this game. So let me read you as it says. Welcome to Dragonfire, the Dungeons & Dragons deck building game. It's a treasure trove of excitement and adventure awaits you. The first thing to do is to dive into the quick start rules. There you go. That's the first drawback and complaints, and that's the reason why it had some negative reviews or misinformation. It's because the quick start rules, which is right here, is pretty much designed and balanced for 4 characters. Even though you could play it solo with 2 characters or 3 and up to 6 characters, it was drawn up for 4 characters. The rules itself, the quick start rules, are pretty much well laid out and explained very well the game on how to play from first step to the second step, and tells you, the rules without getting too much in depth and overwhelming you. And it's pretty much tells you what to do if you choose to play it with 2 players, etc. But again, this was thought out and designed for 4, and the balance was 4. And if you don't, you will get a thrashing, and that will pretty much make the people feel kind of left, kind of upset, angry, or discouraged and disliking the game, because pretty much, hey, this is Dungeons & Dragons, it's a fun game, it's supposed to be adventure into a dungeon and kick butt, but this game really kicks your butt, if you don't think about it and you don't strategize. The items and gears that you can obtain in this game, which is a library of items and gear, is not obtainable like on the first kill. Like if you ever played Castle Ravenloft or Wrath of Ashardalon, every kill gives you a treasure. You know, pretty much by the time you finish any mission or campaign, pretty much you should be the big villain and big boss, because you can obliterate anything almost in the dungeon with certain limitations. I might be exaggerating a bit there, but this game itself, what makes it amazing is it's a lot of cards, but it's amazingly set up. And you know what, this kind of design and with the cards and content, you can use it for any other adventures within the D&D world if you know how to map it up. And that again, it can be self-illustrated as I show you some of the content in this product. Now, with the quick start rules, once you start to play it and you play it with 4 players or less, you will pretty much get the feel of what the game is and the game mechanics and what is the flow. And from there, it comes down to you strategizing with your friends and group as you adventure down deep into the dungeon, or as you go explore the campaign, which is amazing on its own. And welcome to the Sword Coast, guys. Now, the rule book itself, well, beautifully designed and fierce as the dragon is, the rule book is about 30 pages and it pretty much sums up everything. I thought it was very well laid out. It explains the rules from the beginning to the end, well explained, and more importantly, it gives you vast examples of what and how to set up, etc. But more importantly, examples of what the rules are and how it plays out and what is the definition. And if you're getting even more confused by everything, you could always go to the back of the book. Like any good well-written rule book, it has a glossary of all the terminology. So instead of just searching down deep, you could just look right in the back, see the definition, what's the terminology, what does it mean, etc., and from there take action. Or even further, you can always look at the table of contents and it will pretty much direct you to where the section is about the content that you're looking at. Now, in the back of the book, I was wishing that it would be right here in the back like every rule book has, or even a separate cardboard or card that pretty much lays out the rules, but it does not. Instead, it's in the back, the reference sheet, which is not a big discouraging issue, okay, but it kind of sums up everything, that the content of the game, okay. It doesn't explain the game itself, you have to read the rules, but it does kind of sum it like a reference sheet purpose. So what you have to know is that there are 4 color type class types, so building color-coded class types. So, well, the default kind of classes that there would be in D&D. So arcane, which is blue, okay, and deception, which is red, devotion, which is green, and martial, which is black. They're like the main, think of them as the main class summary. So meaning when you speak of arcane classes, you're thinking of wizards and warlocks and sorcerers, which are in this game. There's also deception, which is like rogues and bards, and devotion, which is, you see clerics and druids. And for martial classes, you've seen barbarians, rangers, and fighters. So again, there is a vast library of classes, and in the main core box, you have the default ones, which is the wizard and the rogue and the cleric and the fighter. So you have the default D&D class types, you know, and you play them, and you get all sorts of library of options. I'm going to show you that in characterization, representation. It's amazing. And I say from there you could take depth and you could build it and you could use it for other reference of games. Again, you always have to manipulate and change things, in my opinion. But again, the content in this game, and I'll get into that deeper very soon, is so vast that any good gamer that loves a board game that has set up depth, that gives you the variety and options where you can go beyond just the simplification of what the game limits you to, because a lot of games just limit you within a box and content and doesn't give you much to imagine with. This game does give it to you, but this is D&D and it's well represented for D&D. Now, there's the sword icons, and sword icons, which you'll see in the game during gameplay, especially in the market cards, which market cards are cards that you buy, and I'll be more specific later on. As you can see in the background, there's kind of a layout, and I'll explain that later. They mean that pretty much anytime you have these 3 swords, you can pick up and draw a card, and usually it's for martial cards. Okay, it's very important also. I'm just rewinding a little bit what I said. Arcane being blue and Deception red, Devotion is green, Martial is black. The thing is, all market cards, all encounters are monsters in this game, are all subject to these colors. So you might run into an arcane encounter, so which will have, requirements that pretty much arcane classes will do better with than Deception would, etc. So this is something very, very important to know. Also, market cards, obviously arcane cards, certain other classes can use it, but there's some specific requirements to those cards, which you'll see later that only arcane classes can use. Like if it would be specific and say you must be a warlock to use this card, well, a Deception or Devotion, nobody can else use it. So this is steps to the round, and it's pretty much a lot of steps, but it's easy to play. You'll see the rounds, it flows, it goes quickly, and that's another confusing thing that a lot of people had. They saw that and they saw, oh my god, there's so much things going on here, but actually it's not. It's very straightforward and very easy to explain. This game, it's very simple to play, and once you got the flow, it goes quickly. The only thing that comes down to bogs things down is the strategy and how you will pretty much take this game to the next level, in a sense of who you're gonna kill first, which encounter you're gonna tackle first. Oh, the wizard needs help, or the etc. Now, when I'm going to display this game or give an example of this game, a lot of the other reviewers, not most, but a lot of them have given examples with 2 players. I'm going to give an example of 4 players. Okay, so 4 characters, and I've played this solo and with a group, and I like it much more that way than playing with 2 characters. Not that there's anything wrong with it, okay? But again, you'll see that the challenge meter kind of changes and differentiates as the balance is there. If that is a negative for you, again, you could play with 2 players, and with all the variety and the depth you have in the game, it should not hinder your choice of love and opportunity to try this amazing game. All right? And also, after all completion and everything that you do, and I'll explain that even more later, there's something called short rests. And again, I'm just referencing the rule book, but it might be confusing some of the rules. But short rest is between every adventure scene, okay? You might take a little small rest, okay? And that rest, you could do certain things, okay? You don't fully heal, because you're not going between adventures, okay? So that's the difference, okay? So think about it like you're going one section of the dungeon, and then you go into a totally different part of the dungeon. You're doing a short rest, okay? When you leave the dungeon and you're going to some city or town, then you're pretty much doing the long rest, which is a totally different thing. There's something called locations in this game, which can be confusing if I explain that now, but pretty much what you have to know is there's going to be times where your group members might be taken away from the group and be subjected into an area, locale somewhere, that where you can join them and help them to fight, or pretty much assist him from a distance, etc., or leave him to himself and hope he survives. And don't join me as a friend later. Later on, also, this is explaining here is all the type of tokens that they might be in the game, which I'll display. But so let's skip all this and go to the other ones, which is pretty much the encounter environment icons. This is just to let you know the encounter cards, they all have a representation on the bottom left, which I'll show you again later, so it might be confusing talking about it now, but just I want you to see there's 6 different types. Well, one of them is non-subject, meaning that it could be used on any of those other environmental encounters. So this one is the only exception in this group. Now, in any game, like D&D, especially it's co-op, etc. And if you simulate your own storyline, etc. There is the dread, this AI that pretty much brings the doom and gloom when you wander about. This game is not about, I told you, it's thematically strategic, and that's why it will beat you down. It will challenge you to think. So if you're there to wander the dungeon and take your time, well, there's the dread. And the dread comes with the Dragonfire card icons, which I'm going to explain later and I'm going to display later. But what you have to know that there's 3 type of icons, which I'll display later, and they're pretty much displayed only on the encounter cards or on the pretty much Dragonfire card itself, which is the Doom cards, you could say. That's not the real terminology, but I'm just using that for that. Now, there's also something very, very important. Like I gotta say also here, if you look for this game, now this is something I wanted to show, is already there has been 11 expansions for this game. And there's supposed to be another 4 or 5 type of expansions. So what you need to know right now, there has been 11 expansions. That there where it carries the depth. If it was just a core box, we would not be talking about depth and the vastness, and just I'll be talking about the greatness of the game itself. It plays well, it's nice, where's more? This has been released in 2017, and since it's been released in 2017, they have released 11 expansions. Now, this is the core box. They have released 3 adventures packs, and each one subjects to the story. So that means you don't have to have owned them, but if you did, it will carry the trailing story until the next campaign, which is called the Moonshine Storms. Okay, and so from here, and this first campaign, this is the second campaign. The third campaign is about to release with COVID. We don't know. Rumors are spreading all sorts. Well, right now you have 11 expansions. Aside from the adventure packs that you have right here, you have also pretty much other supplies, support cards, like you have hidden treasures, wondrous treasures, and you got more characters, more character packs. And when you come with more character packs, you're getting more variety of different races, different classes. You got the druids, like I said, and all sorts of other classes. You got more. One very important thing is also you can pretty much level up your characters, and you can pretty much build them however you wish. That means there's a design layout. So that means your characters can get special powers and abilities as they develop into different levels. And some of them you could strategize where you can have much more than the limited 5 or 6 different abilities. Okay, so this is much depth, much options and variety in this game. And that's one thing that I wanted to lay out, and very important to pretty much, well, factually display to you the vastness of this game. Not a lot of games have this variety of that many expansions. Now, D&D has been known to giving great games great expansions. Like even like I've been talking about, changing subject, there is Castle of Ravenloft by Dungeons and Dragons. They have come out after that with 5 different expansions, where giving you much creatures, miniatures, and etc. You know, and not only that, everything is subject to be intermittently interchangeable, meaning that they could be used in any other of the games within them. So you could use in the Mad Mage box, which is a standalone game. You could use it with Castle Ravenloft. You can mix the creatures, you can mix the AI, you can mix all the traps, you can mix etc. So that allows you with your kids. This is, well, those games are more subject to kids and adults. You know, and adults love it too, and you can play those games too, great. But this is more, I would say, it's pretty much challenging without someone that's well understands the game and can explain it. And I would find it very tough for anybody below 10 to grasp it or to be able to do it, to play it alone. There'll be a lot of, I won't say frustration, but confusion, and also the element of lack of strategy, because it's not a cakewalk where you just walk in and, oh, throw your fireball, and or hey, stab him in the back and do an assassin backstab, etc. You know, so this is very, very important, and this is something that I wanted to explain, you know, before moving forward, talking about you know, other parts of the game itself. Now, so as I was saying, all this will give you phenomenal depth and years of good play, all right, with awesome collection, which I will speak of more near the end. So let's see what's some of the contents in the box and what makes this game great, and I hope you're willing to venture into the Sword Coast. So let's see some of the talked about, well, talk about options. This is all the races and classes you could play. Okay, I'm just skimming through. You got lizard folk, you got even kobolds, you got even hobgoblins, you know, half orcs, half elves, sun elves, moon elves, wood elves, all sorts. Anything that you can think of, you could pretty much play and enjoy with your group or solo, you know. And all cards are laid out the same, so there's no card different than the others, other than the watermarks in the back, which you could see here. The watermark here is, this one is for martial class, right? And you could see everything is black, so you pretty much know you're dealing with martial class. This one is devotion class. You could see everything's green, and the watermark of devotion class emblem is right in the back. And let's go find another one. And another one, just give me a second. And this one is deception, as you can see right here, and everything is red, and the card is red itself. So they color coded, so there's no confusion. Is this deception? Is this what? And here's blue for, and the watermark for arcane class. So again, it's very, very important. Look at the variety, look at the options. You can pretty much enjoy this for years to come with great stories with your kids or your friends. Now I'm going to get into detail. I didn't talk about what each character, class, or representation, what's the display, etc., which I'm going to explain very, very soon. What I want to say is, and want to show more before I talk about those things, is to show you this, which is, this is all the character class abilities that you can pretty much obtain in the game. Okay, they're stickers. It's a legacy game, and pretty much I want to say that, you know, a lot of people also were turned off about this. Instead of giving little tokens or icon, something like cardboard, or this is stickers. So, and there's nowhere you can buy just the stickers itself, the packs. So yes, you're given in some of the expansions, again, copies of it, but it's a turn off for many. And what I did was, where some people said, you know, write it on a piece of paper, this or that. What I did was I pretty much cut them all out. You know, and as you could see right here, I cut them out. Let me grab it. I pretty much cut it out like this. So, and so each one I cut it out. Yes, it's time consuming, but is it worthwhile? Way worthwhile, because it's easy to display, easy to lay out, and easy to put away. And also, well, I don't want this to pretty much be stuck on the characters, especially if someone in the future wishes to replay that character and he doesn't want to use any of the abilities which I so chose. Because I tell you, the variety and the options allow you to be creative, and also if you use this game for any other creative story that you have in mind, and any D&D supplements or stories, adventures, then you could pretty much manipulate this game into that variety, etc. I'm going to show you that there is pretty much all these items, and I got several piles of these items, and I'm going to just show you this one in particular. And you could see again, if you see and notice, there is the color code, right? So if you could see this is blue, and it's color coded. And it's called the Lantern of Revealing. And you can see it does an arcane. This is, you know, I'm going to get later what this represents. Right now I don't want to confuse you, but this is an item you could see by, it's an uncommon item. And yes, in the game you can obtain after completing an adventure. Not completing a scene, which I'll explain you the difference between them, but after completing an adventure you may obtain an item, and it tells you what type of items too. So, you know, it says look up the top 2 cards of your primary encounter deck. And again, this one is a red one. As you can see, it's a deception type card. Okay, and it goes on. You see, this one is devotion. And this one is the Marshall, etc. And there's so many items, so many items. Look at this one. All right, this again, this is something, it means something special, which I'll explain later. I don't want to confuse you, but you can see the sword icon I spoke of. Okay. Again, cloak of elvenkind. Amazing items. Here, let's see if I could find anything. And what about this? This, like, just looking at it can be confusing with all the icons displayed there. Sorry, my camera is not focusing for some reason. But you can see right there, and that can be like, you're looking at that and you go, what is that saying? But either ways, I just want to show you there's so many items. And that's just, this is one stack. And I'm just going to show you another one. And this is if you buy all 11 and plus those supplements, which I showed, the rare items. Okay. So let's see some of the rare items. So you got this one. Again, this is deception. You can pretty much see it by the color. And schematic +2. Come on. Whoever played D&D and knows D&D, those terminologies just pop in your eyes and you pretty much know what you're talking about. The ring of free action. Just the way it's written, you just feel D&D. Another rare item. Leather +1. This one, the wand of war mage +2. And it's blue, and you could see that it's arcane. And this one, sacred hide. Looks like they wrote a novel there, but pretty much, again, every item, you know, rare, and it goes on. And but again, to get a rare item is pretty much rare in the game itself. And I have to say that it's amazing how much depth this game has and how much it has to offer in a sense of creation, imagination, and also gameplay. Again, you don't have to use it for anything other than what the game purpose is, because you have enough content, enough to adventure, enough to do much in this game that's going to last you for months, and replayability is high. As you could see as I show you all this content, that's the most important thing, and that's right now what I'm showing you is content. You know, so what this game has is content. And there's much I didn't still show you, but let's move on and let me show you another thing. Before I show you a round of a gameplay, let me explain you some things and what you see here as the board. So this is 4 characters that are set up, you know, and they're chosen at random. So it's not like I specifically chose certain type of characters, but they have a purpose in some way. Now, this is where the group adventure pretty much lures. So this is the dungeon, and this is pretty much, here, let me show you. This is just for fluff. It has no relevancy to the game other than to give you representation, because otherwise this wouldn't be here, and they made the mistake in the first box, and that's why a lot of people also gave it bad reviews and false reviews, because it wasn't in some of the boxes, and they kind of fixed that later on because they didn't feel like it was a big deal to kind of give it, or it was a mistake in the shipment, etc. Whatever it was was wrong. I agree, because being D&D, you got to give that feel of where you are, what's that feeling, what's that setting, etc. So this gives you this feeling of, if you're going to do the first adventure, which is called the dungeon crawl, you don't have to do it, but if you do that, because that's the redundant adventure, meaning that you're going to be doing a lot and repeatedly to grind XP, and that's another thing that people I mean, players didn't like much because there's a grind in this game for XP. But again, you can house rule, you can change, you can make it easier, and not really easier, but you can kind of quicken the stature of how quickly you get your XP and level up, etc. and this. But again, it's how you want to play it. There's a fun factor, and I didn't mind grinding it because it's fun. It's no rush, and with all the variety, all the depth, you just play out a great story and see, in turn how it plays out. So here's the group, and this is the group icon, pretty much. So this is your party of 4, right? And this comes in a later expansion. So the core box, you don't get that, okay? But I'm going to use that right here to represent that the group right here is pretty much always here. Now, the only time, they will use their own icons, which is this is each character icon. So this is the deception character icon, is when they're taken to a location, which I'll explain again later, which I don't want to confuse you, but I just want to show you that each character has their own icon in the game. In the core box, this is what you get. Okay. All right. And last but not least is our friendly fireball or furball. All right. So now before I talk about anything else about the setup, let's talk about characters. Okay, so let me remove this to take away the confusion, and let me take away this to take away the confusion, and let me show you this. So this is a character, okay, one of the players pretty much that you will represent in the story as you play, and you will play this through all your adventures and all the campaigns. Oh, you could change, but it kind of ruins it because you want to play your character and who you are, and you build this, you took the time to grind, and this is who you are. The race is Goliath. As you can see right here, that's amazing already. You see the differentiation of race. There's humans, there's dwarves, there's gold dwarves, sun dwarves, sun elves. There's all sorts of characters, like I said. And this class, which is not in the core box, by the way, but it's when I chose random, this is the character class that appeared, which is the Barbarian Martial class. Okay? Now, the next thing to know is every character pretty much has their tool sets. So think of it as your equipment, and that equipment is your weaponry. Okay? So in this case, your equipment pack is your weaponry that you pretty much, every character has their own equipment pack, and it varies depending which race. Sometimes it affects it, or sometimes which class, etc. So in this case, you can see that this particular class and race, their equipment pack has 5 martial equipment or cards, I should say, 1 devotion, 1 deception, and 1 arcane. Okay, so that's the equipment pack. The starting health is 12. So hence, it's represented with this. And if you can see the marker that they give has a sword. It's kind of represented like a sword, which I think is amazing. Nice design. It's a sword. And a lot of people complain that this would scratch and damage the cards. And I never found it an issue after playing so many rounds. But again, if it does happen, it does. But it never did damage the card to the point where it was never usable again. This character starts with 0 gold. Okay? This pretty much, everything you see here is what you start with any adventure, okay, or in any scene also. So, and I'll talk what a scene is very soon. This character also, when they start their adventure or their scene, they take 5, their starting hand is pretty much 5 cards. So in this case, if you have 8 cards and you shuffle them, you will start 5 out of the 8 cards that you pretty much have as equipment. Okay, so just to effectively make it more sense, here's the cards that you will have. If you notice, here's represented your 5 martial class. It's your basic cards which everybody can obtain, and it's pretty much does 1 martial damage. If you can see, this icon's always on the top left. They're the damage status that you'll pretty much cause to any encounter. or opponent, if you want to use that term. Okay? And this is the one devotion that this character has. Okay, and again, that's the devotion damage, and it's a devotion basic card. It's called Grace. Okay, this one is called Glory. Now this is the deception card, and in this case it is Stealth, the name, and it says right here Deception basic. Can't get it confused. And this one is the arcane basic card, Cantrip, and it is the arcane damage that you do here. So as you could see, this is the 8 cards that you start with, and you will shuffle them, and once you're done shuffling them, you will look here again, though I even said it, you will then take 5 cards, or you pretty much, your starting deck is 5, your starting hand I mean is 5 cards, so you take 5 cards in this case. So you take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and at this point, this is the 5 cards that you will start, or at least this Goliath character, Barbarian, you know, call it, you know, Zatar. Call him Zatar. Okay, so you give him a name, and pretty much, you know, as we play with players and friends, so everybody use their own name, or you can come with your own creative name. But again, you can write your name right here, or you pretty much can know your own name if you're playing the character. So at this point, you could see you have 3 martial cards that you start with, 1 arcane, 1 deception, and that's his starting hand. Now, another thing to explain here is very important, is each character has an innate ability or a special ability. And as he's a barbarian class, they have an ability called Raging. Well, it's a barbarian, okay? So their special ability is that once per scene, during your turn, 1 martial card deals plus X, where X is the scene number. So I'll explain what scenes are soon, but what you need to know, so X is equates to or equals to pretty much your scene level. Okay, so if you're in scene level 3, this will be +3 when you're Raging Bull. Okay, the only issue is he's unruly, so that means he cannot use the swords. So that means when he gets 3 swords for martial cards, he cannot go and obtain an extra drawing card. Okay, also the expa, this is his racial ability, which is Stone Endurance. Once per scene, during your turn, 1 encounter facing you deals -1 damage. Not bad. And I'll show you what encounters are and how they do damage, etc., and how you do damage to them. But what you need to know, that pretty much once per scene, which is not bad, because a lot of them sometimes have abilities that pretty much say, or racial abilities that pretty much says once per game. So in this case, it's once per scene that you could pretty much lower the damage from 1 encounter, which is not bad at all. Now, another thing to note is the 6 slots. This 6 slots is where you put your futures. So when you level up and you get a new ability, and it's not to confuse with disabilities, but a new skill, you could say, you pretty much will put them into that 1 slot. Because you did, or you don't have to do it, but anytime you start the game or the adventures, okay, you get a background for free. Okay, so if you do the quick start rule gameplay, in the end of it, you're supposed to get a background, and even if you didn't do it, you get a background. In this game, they give you all sorts of variety of backgrounds, and I'll show you the background I chose for this particular character. It's called the Outlander. Okay, once per game, you see? Once per game during your turn, discard 1 card for 1 HP. So pretty much, he could heal himself if he's in a dire situation, get extra health if the cleric fails to do his job. You're fired. Okay, so this is the cards that he pretty much starting hand is, and that explains you what this character and how a character is set up. This is also a token here. It's the Dragonfire token, but it's also more importantly the first player token. And that's usually they always advise to give it to the martial class, but in any scenario you would always give it to the martial class or the fighter class or the barbarian class, because they're the ones who will be the one taking most of the punches. Okay, so let's look at your other characters. Okay, so let's go to the next character, which will be your deception character. Okay, and let's read it just the way we did up to now and understand it so quickly. So let's see. This is, again, you give it a name, whatever name you want to call it. Okay. And he doesn't look like Drist, so don't call him Drist. Bad joke for those who understand it. It's a Tiefling race. Okay. So the race is Tiefling. As you could see already, it gives you that imaginative perception of, that where you can get creative. And I've said that already 10 times up in this review. Now, let's see what his equipment pack is. He has 3 deception cards, all right? 1 martial class card, 1 devotion, and 1 arcane. He starts with 8 HP. He starts with 5 gold, and the gold tokens are as such. Okay? And they're very good quality, and D&D is known to give very good quality, in my opinion. And his starting hand is 3. Okay? So it has also an innate ability, which is Infernal Legacy. So this ability only takes effect at level 3 and beyond. At level 3, once per scene, upon taking damage, discard Arcane to apply 1 level of damage to the encounter. I mean, once per scene, that's very powerful. Okay? Now there's some enemies that are pretty much immune to that, but most are not. And I'll explain what a level damage is compared to doing a damage, which is very different. Okay? So let's set this character up. But before that, let me show you what background ability I gave to this character, which is different from the others. It is the Hermit. If you could see that. Once per game, during your turn, exchange 1 gold to draw 1 card. In the right time, it could save him. Okay. All right, there you go. All right. So, in this case, like we said, there is, let me sort it properly. Here is the 5 deception cards. Okay. This is just different art, but they're the same card. Okay. And you got the 1 arcane cantrip, and you got the 1 glory, and you got the 1 grace, devotion. Okay, and as you can see, that's the devotion damage it could do if you obtain the card, and equipment, I should say, and 1 martial, etc., and 1 deception. So you will shuffle this too, and in this case, this character only takes or starting equipment is 3 cards. So in this case, I'll take this. And it will be 2 deceptions and 1 arcane. Okay. Now let's go to our next character, which is our devotion character. And let's check it like the other characters. So in this case, this character starts with 9 HP. But I'll explain why it's not on 9 and on the 10th marker very soon. Also, the equipment pack is 5 devotion, 1 martial, 1 deception, and 1 arcane. That's the way you read it. It's a gold dwarf race. Again, amazing. Okay, amazing. Cleric is the class, and you can name it whatever you want. Mini-me. And his starting starting equipment is pretty much 5 cards. Okay, the background I gave to this character is increase your starting HP by 1. Equipment pack, you must add 1 devotion card, which is amazing, which I don't mind. So not only he gets 1 HP, but he gets another devotion card, which to me is a plus win situation, especially if you notice, I'm trying to specialize all my characters in their particular class. So if you, sorry for that. So if you, let me fix that a bit. Okay, so getting back to here, you should have 6 devotion cards, and you let me take out the glory, take out the confusion. So if you look, here's 6 devotion cards, and this is just art. So there's different art, if you can see, but they're both grace cards. Grace. Okay, and the 1 deception, the 1 cantrip, arcane, and 1 martial glory. Okay, so let's shuffle and give him his starting hand, which is 5. Again, that's amazing. When you have the more cards you start with, it gives you a better chance to pretty much decide what you can do and how you can help your group. Because when you're in the same locale or in the same area, like you could see here, the group is together, you don't necessarily have to face off your monster. That's still where the strategy lies. You could always go try to help your arcane mage, your buddy there, you know, Raceland, okay, and help him try, and Raceland, I'm just naming him, his name is not Raceland, but it's this characterization, I'm giving him a name. Raceland, you can go and aid him, you know, because he's in need of help. And if you know the true character, Raceland, he will not need anybody's help. He even tried to kill his brother. Well, I won't get into that story. Read it in the Dragonlance stories. Alright, so he takes 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in this case, he starts with this. So I like to sort it out things. So he pretty much starts with 2 devotion, 1 martial, 1 arcane, 1 deal. Pretty much he has all these sets of cards. And unforgettably so, he has his 3 gold right there. Now, for the last but not least, our amazing arcane character. So he is a wizard, a moon elf wizard, who starts with an equipment pack of 5 arcane cantrips, 1 martial glory, devotion grace 1, and deception stealth 1. Starts with 3 gold, 5 health, which the marker is right there, and he starts with 6 cards in his hands at the start, which is very good. Now, their innate ability, the moon elves, have keen senses, and they make a skill check. Anyone who knows D&D, a skill check is pretty much verifying if you pass or fail a certain test. And in this case, if he succeeds, he shifts a surprise card, which is usually an encounter will have a surprise on you, and the surprises are never good. And once that occurs and you pass your test, you can pretty much pass that surprise to the character to the left. And in him being an arcane, it's not a bad thing because you want him to live as long as he can, so he can blast away. Now, his background ability that I pretty much set up is a pretty good one. Native Eladrin. Okay, so it requires an elf, and he's pretty much an elf. Okay, that's, you know, and he's continuous. Continuous meaning that it's ongoing, so it's never ending. Increase your starting hand by 1. So basically, instead of 6, it's 7. Okay, so always he starts the scene or an adventure with 7 cards in his hand. And his equipment pack, you must add 1 more cantrip card, which again is not a bad thing because it is who he is. Now, the drawback and the issue that some may say to this is that, you know, if you have more cards of the basic cards, you're not going to pick up the other market cards that you buy. But being proficient in your class, like with the way I'm setting it up, I feel that you will pretty much be able to provide, you know, the support that he has to. Okay, in this case, you could see the 6 cards of where it is all. It was supposed to be 5, but you added 1. There's 6 cantrips right there, 1 stealth, 1 grace, and 1 martial glory. Okay, now more importantly, his starting hand is 7 and not 6 because of the native Eladrin ability. Eladrin, sorry. It is for the elves. Okay. It's the word shuffling. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow. Okay. Pretty much he has his whole deck. And not bad. I like that. He still has a variety. Okay. Okay. Now, he starts also with 3 gold, and hence it is right here, the 3 gold. Also, another thing to set up before I talk about what the adventure is and how that works, and also the encounters that I show you, display you, I'm going to set up the market cards. So the market cards come from this deck. So we'll pick up this top 6 cards, okay? And yes, there's some races and characters that have innate ability that increase the amount of market cards that you could put on the table, pretty much, or on the map. Okay, so if you have 4 characters with those abilities, you can pretty much, instead of the default 6, which is by the rules, you can have 10 cards at all times, which is amazing. Okay, so in this case, we take 6 cards. So let's take 6 cards, and this one, Marshall and Grace, you can see by the color code of what they're represented and what they belong to. And as I play, I'll explain what the cards are and display them. Now, very important, there's some cards that are referenced toward certain classes. If that is so, you're supposed to remove them from the market, because it doesn't make sense to have Druid cards and you have no Druids, okay? Or to have Bard cards and there's no Bards, or Warlocks, etc. So in this case, we added the Barbarian to this deck, because there is a Barbarian. And also, some cards are from later expansion cards. So there's a whole total mix of variety. Again, the depth is there, and that's your market card. So I don't know if you see it that well, but let me move the adventure board a bit here. Okay, so you could see the market cards a bit better. Okay, now what you need to know, that each market card has a cost. Here, let me take one, for example. Here, this one is a devotion market card. To pretty much obtain this one is a, let me please fix this. Give me 1 second. So, sorry for that. Okay, so this one is a devotion market card. And you could see it costs 6 gold to pretty much obtain. It does 2 devotion damage, aside from its other abilities, okay? So devotion, so it's devotion class. You could pretty much know by the color code, as I always say. Healing word. You could use this as an assist. An assist, you'll see that in some cards. An assist means that you could use this card on other characters or other players' turn, okay? And what it could do is heal 2 different characters 1 HP each. May your body remember itself. Nice, I like that. So again, it does, if just used itself, the card, it does 2 devotion damage. If you use it in another player's turn, it pretty much heals 2 separate characters for 1 HP. I think that's a good deal. Again, for the devotion guy, it's amazing. Let's see this one. This one is for our barbarian there. He's martial class. He would do 1 martial damage and 1 of any damage. This means 1 of any damage. Okay? So, headbutt. And this is colorless damage. Just understand that as a colorless, and I'll explain that later as you see encounters, how that's relevant. So headbutt must include barbarian class, and which we do. All right. When this card goes into your discard, you may pay 1 HP to return to your hand. Okay. And this one is a deception. Sorry for that. It costs 2 gold. Okay. And you can see it's deception, the red, and pretty much it says there, skill check, success, take 1 gold from the common supply. So that means if you pass, well, you could do this pretty much as often as you get this card. So you do a skill check. The way a skill check works for deception, so if this character had this card, what he would do is pretty much pick up the card, and if he picks up a red card and he matches this card, he pretty much successfully did a skill check, and he pretty much can obtain that 1 gold. Also, this card has an assist of 1 deception. Okay? So now any character that uses that card pretty much has to do a skill check. If they meet their class cards, then pretty much they pass the skill check. If they don't, then they fail and they don't get it. All right? So if a martial class had it and he did a skill check, okay, to succeed, he must pick up a black glory card or another black martial kind of type class card like this would be, etc., to pretty much pass that skill check. All right? So those are the market cards. That's the market setup. Now the next thing is, before I pretty much talk about what those cards are right here on the side. Okay, so let's discuss and set up our next discussion about the adventure itself. So let's re-summarize real quickly. We have spoken about the characters and how to set up the characters. This is a 4-player balanced game. Now with 2 players, the main differentiating factor, or even 3 players, well, let's talk about first of all 2 players. If there was 2 players, what will happen is you'll have to multi-class. Well, it's a D&D term, but in this game what they say is the other color classes have to be represented. So that means if you chose only the fighter or only the barbarian here, which is the martial class, and the deception, then the 2 other classes, which happens to be the arcane and the devotion, will need to be represented. So these 2 classes will multi-class. So you'll have to choose this one to be the martial and the arcane, and this one the deception and the devotion, or however you want to decide which one will be the primary and which one is the secondary class. In the end, it will be represented, but also more importantly is that you will require to take a card from the markets called Bless, and remove 1 card from your deck, which will allow you to kind of enhance your starting ability and power, because the card itself will allow you to pretty much at the start assist in a colored form. So that means you could pretend like you have a deception card or whatever it is that you so choose, and it could aid the other player in that time. So if, without confusing you, just know that if you play with anything less than 4 players, you will need to represent all the character classes. Now let's say you play 4 characters, but you chose 2 fighters, which you could do, 2 fighters and 2 arcanes or 2 devotion. Again, all other classes must be represented, so some of those players will need to represent those classes, so they'll need to multi-class. Okay, and because the reason is because some of the encounters or even the Dragonfire cards over there will pretty much require you to take action against those particular classes, and if you do not have those color classes, well, pretty much it just won't work. So the neat thing is here, they all need to be represented in some form. So it doesn't matter if you want to play 2 players or 4 players or even 6 players. At this point, at 6 players, there is no issue right there. But again, there could be if you decide to have a wild party, which you could in this game. That's why it's so amazing and awesome the way it's laid out, presented. If you want to go above whatever is given to you, meaning that you can have 3 fighters and 3 devotions, or etc. Whatever a party of 6 you could set up. But in this case, we have the 4 balanced characters, as you could see, and let's not forget we're all at the dungeon, and these are character tokens representing if we ever have to kind of disperse ourselves and go into a location, aside from to display that we are pretty much dispersed. But currently we're all sitting here. This is the market cards. So now let's explain the next thing. Okay, but before we start discussing what is the Dragonfire card and how it appears, like I just explained before, it is pretty much representing the doom of your pretty much delay. The more you delay as you play, the more chances that every round that passes, you bring dread against you, because every time the level of Dragonfire increases, and that'll represent very soon. But before we start anything and discussing that, let's see what is our adventure, and this adventure is primarily going to be played a lot of times. Let's not forget that. And it actually has the only exception that once you complete it, you actually obtain the rewards for completing it. All other adventures, if you repeat them, you do not. Okay, that's very, very important to note, because all other adventures, you pretty much, once you finish it, you do not get the rewards that are pretty much mentioned in the back, or whatever it is based on your level, etc., which is explained in the back of the manual, which we're going to visit later on, talking about experience and the experience that you gain. Very important to also note, when you fail in the dungeon crawl or any adventure or any scene that you try to explore, especially this one, for trying to attempt it, anytime you try to attempt an adventure and you, even though you fail in it, you still obtain an XP. I mean, again, you have to read the rules and requirements, because some things change in not all cases. But if you do fail, certain things do occur. Like sometimes there's not necessarily three scenes here, and I'm jumping here a little bit when I explain you, but each adventure has, think of it as chapters. Okay, scenes are like chapters. So if you complete all the chapters, you pretty much completed the adventure, and you can move on and you get the complete experience and the rewards. That's the only time you get the rewards. But if you fail, like in this dungeon crawl, okay, in this case, this is a dungeon crawl. Once you complete this dungeon crawl, which is adventure level 1, and you complete it, even if you don't complete a chapter, which is in this terminology is a scene, and I didn't want to confuse you, but it's better to understand as a chapter. You know, this is a scene. Once you complete the scene, or don't even complete it, you still get an XP for attempting it. So let's say you fail the first scene already, you will still obtain an XP. Lame as it may seem, but it's just because it's just 1 XP. And it's an attempt, and it's a grind, right? So you're gonna have to try 5 times, and if you fail 5 times on the first thing, you know, and that's why some were kind of discouraged, because they're saying, okay, how often do I have to do this to get 5 XP to just, you know, basically get 1 feature or 1 ability? In some cases, some features cost 30 XP, and you find yourself endlessly, you know, grinding, where it could end up like an hour or 2, and some don't find it as fun. But it depends the storyline, the scenario, and how the companionship, and how you set the storyboard for yourself and your group. And most of the sessions, you should time yourself for at least an hour. Okay. Now, let's pretty much skipping all that. Before I read off the fluff, as once we start the dungeon crawl, let's go to the next step, which is the adventure setup. It says right here pretty much how you set up this adventure. It says use dungeon 1 as the primary encounter deck, and dungeon 2 as the secondary encounter deck. So this is the encounter decks, as you can see, encounter 1 and encounter 2. It says on it, if you grab it, you'll see it says right there, Dragonfire encounter. Now when you turn it over, okay, based on this, it says to take the dungeon 1. Okay, and how do you know this is the dungeon 1 level primary? This primary encounter is this one, because it shows the 1 level dungeon. And how would you know that this is the level 1 dungeon? That's the next question you may ask, correct? And the way you would know is always good to have the rule book nearby, I say. And the answer to that question is, if you look in that famous part in the back of that book, it says right here, this is it. This is the dungeon. Okay, so that's to answer your question. All right, so this is your dungeon deck 1, and this is your secondary dungeon. And how would you know that? Pretty much that's level 2. So it just shows you the dungeons reduplicated in a sense, meaning there's 2 dungeon picks. So, and usually there's also dungeon level 3, and you know, pretty much I think I saw even dungeon level 4. But most importantly to note is that these things get difficult. The depth and the choices and variety, I think you can sense it already. And the stories that you could tell and the games you can create and is phenomenal with this whole setup of, you know, wondrous thing that D&D and Catalyst Games has done. Now, I'm really amazed by it. I have not tried Shadowrun Crossfire. I don't know if I would, and I'm not going to say to recommend or not recommend it, but I would say at the same time, based on this layout and setup, I'm pretty much amazed. But this is my theme, and pretty much I'm amazed by it, and I would, well, still push it as a recommendation, and I hope you all love what you see. Encounters now. So he discusses encounters, which we just, you know, displayed. All right. So it says, at the start of each scene, so scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3, reveal encounters as indicated in the chart below. So before reading on, it would say scene 1, reveal encounters equal to the number of characters. So if that was just straight up and that's what you read and understood, then in this case, you would reveal 4 encounters, if it's correct, right? Based on the number of characters, okay? First, reveal encounters from the secondary deck equal to the Dragonfire level. So that's the first thing you do. So in this case, which I didn't reveal and discuss yet, the Dragonfire level or the Dragonfire cards, but in this case, it's 0. As you can see, there's no Dragonfire card anywhere currently. So the level will be 0. So in this case, which is the first action you should take, it does not take precedence. So the first, reveal the encounters from the secondary deck equal to the Dragonfire level. Skip. Then, if you still need to draw more encounters, reveal the remaining encounters from the primary deck, which we already know is from here, right? The primary deck. All right. And place the first revealed encounter facing the character whose class type color matches. You see, class type color, it already discusses that. It specifies who, you know, how they encounter the monster will attack and who it will attack, etc. The encounter's color. So, and distribute the rest to the left from that character. Okay? So, we're going to do scene obviously 1, there's scene 2 and scene 3. So, if you had to read this, scene 1 is the number of characters. Scene 2 would be the number of characters plus 1. So you can see that the level of difficulty just rises, and scene 3 is pretty much plus 2. Now, ending this scene, so let's move on a little bit, just even though we are nowhere close to ending the scene. But ending a scene, the standard rules apply for the short rest after each scene, okay? So, when you finish a scene, okay, you pretty much take a short rest, okay? It's not a long rest. A long rest occurs when you finish this adventure, which we have not any come close to. So, and a long rest, the difference between a long rest and a short rest, think of a short rest like I explained before. You're going somewhere deeper into the dungeon, you haven't found your way out of it, and you're still exploring. While a long rest is pretty much you have explored the dungeon, you're out, and you're pretty much going with your players to the nearest town or village to pretty much spend your XP and talk about your great adventure. So in this case, you have not accomplished anywhere close to that, but that's what will occur, a short rest between and again, in a short rest you heal only 1 HP. It doesn't sound great, but when you have properly, and if you set it up in a certain way, you have the 4 classes here, you have a proper devotion, he's a cleric class, and he'll be built in that way. He should be able at some point heal you up, and there's some healing cards, you know, pretty much on the market already. I want you to think, when you discuss the market, it's not about shopping for an ability. Think of it as your players and characters are slowly using this gold, or you can represent them as mana tokens, to empower and remember certain abilities or skills that they knew once, or are in the tip on their fingers. So, however you want to dramatize the story. Okay, now once you complete the adventure, which is the adventure is these 3 scenes completed, okay, after the 3rd scene, the party has completed the adventure. Thank you. Awarding XP and magic items. So at this point, you award the XP and you award the magic items. Now you still award XP even though for not completing the adventure, but that's a different issue. For each scene that you start, so as you see, start, not end, start, each player receives 1 XP. If the party completes the entire adventure, the players each receive a bonus of 2 XP for a total of 5 XP. The standard rules for awarding magic items. So pretty much reading the back of the rule book on the standard rules. So it's based on your level, etc. And certain types of characters are limited to how many items they can obtain or carry. I don't know if I did display that to you, but quickly before I go on the next discussion, in the back of each character, it tells you your magic item limitation. So in this case, this character, let's not forget him, Drist, the fake Drist, rogue, Tiefling, is pretty much, he can only carry 3 weapons, 1 shield, 1 armor, 4 miscellaneous items, any light armor, deception shield only. So he can't carry any shield. He has to be a deception shield. So that means the color code itself will let you know that it's deception. Okay, if it's not and it shows martial, then you cannot use that shield. Okay, so that's something very important to note when in magical items. Do reference yourself to the back of the manual. It kind of illustrates what it is, what rank, what level, etc. that you need to be to obtain certain items, what kind of items you obtain. Now, for this is very important also, optional scenarios. Optional scenarios are pretty much if you're feeling brave. At this point, you just started the game, I wouldn't recommend it. But optional scenario says that you could choose any of these 2, or you could choose both of them if you're really feeling crazy. But pretty much you can do this 2 special added difficulties to the current adventure you are doing, and you will get bonus XP. So in this case, charge is one of them. Reveal 1 additional encounter at the start of each scene, plus 1 XP upon adventure completion. So you're not getting 1 XP extra for each one. You're getting once you complete the whole adventure, so that will put you at 6 XP. Okay, that could be a little discouraging, but if you wanted difficulty and challenge, you got it. All right, and the next one, it's a trap. All encounters that match the color of the first revealed encounter of the game receive a +1 attack strength for the entire game, plus 1 XP upon adventure completion. Okay, there you go. Now later on, it discusses about, because you're going to have so much resource, you can pretty much manipulate the decks however you want and raise or manipulate your challenge also. Okay, so players will likely replay this adventure many times, since in the base adventure of the Dragonfire. While players can continue using the Dungeon 1 and Dungeon 2 decks, feel free to substitute any difficulty 1 deck for the primary deck and any difficulty 2 deck for the secondary. So meaning you could pretty much spin it how you want. I mean, with the variety that you have and the variety you get, and with all the packs, like I told you, there's been 11 expansions, okay? And with all those options and variety, you can create whatever scenario you want. Obviously, you're going down a dungeon. I think staying with the dungeon cards, and later on you get more kind of dungeon cards, you can pretty much simulate it and properly play it out. You don't need to pretty much add to that more. And when you go to the wilderness, there's wilderness cards, etc. So we're going to do this adventure, and we're going to play out scene 1. So as it says, okay, before you start, usually whoever is the first player, well, he's the first player, what he will do is first take a Dragonfire card. In this case scenario, awkward as it is, you first pull out the encounters. So let's see the encounters that everybody will face off, okay? So pretty much, who are the monsters that we're going to have to fight off in the dark, okay? So, what is the story to this? The townsfolk are terrified. Monsters inhabitants from the nearby dungeon continually raid the surface, burning fields, disrupting trade, and taking captives. The town needs adventurers, willing to brave the depths. What they don't know is you're already stuck in the dungeon, and already you're the reason why they're running out of the dungeon, because out of fear, because you're pretty much killing left and right all the very vile enemies that are there. And by finishing this adventure, you have pretty much saved that town, that wherever you were, from the perilous evil that was there lurking in the dungeon. So by that, based on this scene 1, the number of characters, by the way, very important, all cards that you remember and memorize and purchase via your gold, and your cards in deck will pretty much increase, you get to keep them throughout all scenes. But between adventures, you get kind of amnesia and you lose your memory. That's one of the discouraging things, but it's understandable. Through drinking and at the tavern endlessly, you're spending your gold for your success, you show up to the next adventure pretty much back at square one. Okay, rebuilding yourself and remembering your glory days and fighting through villains of all sorts. So do remember that. So number of characters. So let's do this. And the card number 1 is it's the blinking dog. Blink dog. So blink dog. So this is the first encounter enemy monster that are displayed. So let me explain it. So this is the name. This is the color type villain or monster that it is, encounter it is, which is martial type, as you could see by the color. It matches very well the martial class. The second thing, 7 is the gold. So we are successfully defeating this encounter, you will obtain 7 gold. Very important to understand something about this. When you, let's say this encounter belongs to this character or this character, it doesn't matter which character it belongs to. If, let's say it's your turn and others assist you in defeating this character, let's say the arcane did an assist and blasted this blink dog and it died on your turn, then you still are treated as if you're the one who defeated this monster because it was done at your turn, if that's understood. So he would not get the bonus for killing it. It's that it would be you, okay? Or meaning the one, whoever's turn it is. So I hope I'm clear about that, all right? So by whoever defeats it, not necessarily will get the bonus of whatever the goal change will be. It will be the one whose player's turn it is. Okay, now this is the type of monster it is, which is, in this case, if you could see, it's a beast. Okay, now before I discuss what all this is, let's see what this beast can do. After Blink Dog attacks, okay, discard the top card of the market deck. Blink Dog also attacks the player whose primary class color matches that card. The same character can be attacked twice. Ouch. Don't blink too much. Alright? So this wild, unpredictable, and their teleporting makes killing him an extra nuisance. Balasara the Wild said. Now let me explain you this. This side is pretty much the level. In terminology in the rulebook, they use this as levels. Okay? So this is the level damage that you require to do to pretty much beat this encounter. The way you should think about it is this is the HP level of this current encounter. But to pretty much beat this HP or this encounter, or to destroy this level, to keep it simple, is you must match whatever damage is required. This, the splattered one in red, is the damage it would do to you when you're done taking your turn. So after you do your action, you do your turn, whatever, this monster encounter will attack you. Okay? So if you had to read it, you always read it from top to bottom. Okay? So in this case, you will need to do 1 martial damage, 1 deception. Now what is this? This means 2 of any kind of damage. So that means you could choose to do 2 martial damage, or 1 martial and 1 deception, or 1 martial and arcane, or 1 or 2 devotion. It doesn't matter. 2 of any type of damage will suffice. And then another 2 damage of anything will pretty much defeat it, and you've beaten it, and it moves on. So in this case, now there's another rule. Because this is the first card that you pretty much took from the encounter deck, if you remember, the Dungeon Crawl Adventure Level 1 encounter rule says, place the first revealed encounter facing the character whose class type color matches the encounter's color, and distribute the rest to the left from the character. So in this case, this will go to Zatara, our famous barbarian Goliath. He fears not this enemy, so he pretty much will put his token there saying, buddy, you're mine. Okay? Okay. Which is that card. Okay, so now the next card, the next encounter will be, oh, this is a location. I don't want to create confusion, so let's remove that for now. And the next opponent is the Orc War Chief. Okay? Replenish, draw no cards. Ooh, that's a tough punishment. Okay? Needs 1 devotion, 4 of any kind, and 1 deception, and he does 2 damage. Whew. What a way to start. Okay, what a way to start. So I'm going to put it right here for him, and I'm going to mark that this guy is his problem. Let's see our next opponent. And the next one, ooh, it's a roper. And it has a surprise. Now, surprises is the first action that you take. Okay, so in this case, there's dispel magic, but there's no magical items anywhere. We don't have any magical items. We just started playing, so our adventurers just didn't bring any gear with them. So at this point, nothing occurs. So, but just pay attention here. When Roper damages a character, it heals 1 level. So it does 2 damage. Okay, so pretty much look at this. This one is a tough one. You have to do 4 of any kind, 1 arcane, 2 of any kind, 1 martial, 1 arcane, 3 of any kind. That's the only way you could pretty much defeat it. And the thing that's amazing so far is martial, devotion, and arcane. It's kind of following the if you notice, it's a very rare chance that it follows the sequence and the color code of all the characters. Usually he might get this card and he might get that card and whatever. But in this exception, because he's the first character. But usually it's just surprising that it matches. But that's okay. Now this is very important. Now I know it can be confusing because we didn't yet still discuss the Dragonfire card at this point. And I'm sure there's curiosity to that. But what this thing says below here, and thank God we're not there, it says the way you should read it is, if there are 6 or more of Dragonfire cards discarded, instead it heals 2 levels. And in this case, if there is 8 or more discarded Dragonfire cards, it heals all levels. Oh, I don't want to talk about it if that happens. So let's put him here. And this is not looking too shabby or too much fun. And then we got this guy. Okay, he doesn't match the deception. You couldn't make it a all-around party. But okay, so this is swarming skeletons, but it does present something new and interesting. So aside from the 4 gold and aside from this, which is pretty much, you look at it, you say it's very simple. This is the thing that you should worry about. It's the tokens. It's something new and introduced. Tokens, what it means is, this is a swarm. So it's a swarm of skeletons. So imagine that instead of 1 skeleton, there's 3 skeletons here. Okay? And you have to take tokens, and let me present you these tokens. These 2 tokens, right? Okay, and you put these 2 tokens on this encounter. What also you need to note, if you pay attention here, it says that you have to do one colorless, meaning any damage type, and it does 1 damage to you. So the way you read it is there's 2 tokens, and it does one. You must do 1 damage of any type, or else it does 1 damage to you. And again, reading this would be if there is 6 or more Dragonfire discarded cards. Instead, you would need 2 of any type to do damage, and it does 1 damage to you. And here in this case, it's the same, but it would do 2 damage to you. So animated by dark magic, they heed the summons of the spellcasters who call them from their stony tombs. Bombs, I was going to say. Anyways, but also more importantly to know, there's a special rule here. You cannot attack this encounter until you remove the tokens. So imagine that this is like the swarm. It's in front of you. It's in your way. It's blocking you to get to him. So you must slay them. Now, there's going to be also, I'm going to talk ahead a little bit. There's going to be some cards or some powers or some strength that will enable you to pretty much remove this card, and bring it to another character. If that happens, the encounter follows it too. And don't forget, anything that would do damage to a devotion type, or should I say, devotion type, color type enemy, will also do damage to them, for they are the same. Okay? So in this case, we know this belongs to this. Now that you set up your encounters and your enemies, you pretty much know what you're going against. Let's see what is the Dragonfire cards all about. So, give me 1 second. So, you take it from the top, and now that it's his turn, it's going to be his first turn, his first action. What he will do is take this card and turn it over. And from the top, he will read. It all looks the same. Each turn reveals identical paths. Unique markers left behind disappear when backtracking. There is no water, food, or rest to be had here. You must outsmart this maze, for you will succumb to madness long before thirst or hunger can claim you. Okay. Now this takes effect if there's 2 or more Dragonfire cards discarded. So at this point, it's irrelevant. So it's good to know. Nothing to worry, nothing to sweat about. But let me show you some type of different dragon. Here, let me put this aside. Let's all remember that this is our Dragonfire card for now. So let's see the other type of Dragonfire cards to understand the differentiation factors. In this case, I'm not going to read this until we get to that point, and if we do, we're in big trouble. Because at that point, we mean, well, I don't want to know what level we're at. But this symbol means continuous, okay? So what it means is this effect, whatever it is, will always be persistent as long as that round persists. So if this round is continuing, this effect takes effect. Let's go see another one. There's another type. Okay, this is a little bit different. Okay, so we already know that this is a persistent effect when you see this symbol. This symbol, okay, is a little bit different, but there's the 3+, so that just means something else, which means if there's 3 or more discarded type of cards, but in this case there's not. But either ways, when you see this symbol, it means it takes effect only when this card is discarded. So when this card is discarded, or in this case, use this one as a better example, sorry for that. When this card is discarded, this effect takes effect. Okay? Right now, when you pick up this Dragonfire card, nothing happens, especially because we have no Dragonfire discarded cards. We have no Dragonfire 4 or greater discarded, so this effect is relevant. But if we discard this card, because the round is finished and a new round is about to begin and we're going to pick up a new Dragonfire card, in that case, this effect will take effect as long as it's discarded. Now, obviously, the next card to be discarded on top of it voids this. But until then, this effect will affect you. So Dragonfire cards are never good. I'm going to reshuffle. Okay, so they're never pleasant and they're always surprise. So that's why you never want to loom theirs too long, because they say pretty much, hey, if there's 2 or 3 cards discarded, you've been fooling around. Now, very important to know also, based on the cards I got, I doubt it, but the encounters, I mean, the monsters that I'm facing, they're very tough and they're pushing around the adventurers. But in the point to know, if I finish this round, okay, if I finish this round, you know, before it is his turn again, which is Zatara's turn. If I finish this round before it's Zatara's turn, then this card, this Dragonfire card does not get discarded. It does not get discarded. Instead, it gets buried on the bottom of the Dragonfire card, which means that there is no Dragonfire level and there's no Dragonfire discarded. Okay? Alright, so that's very important to note. Also, again, this is a game of strategy and much depth, which I love. Sometimes it is a good strategy to know if or not to end your round, or when to end it. So let's begin. Now that we have, this is our Dragonfire, let's begin this gameplay. Okay? Let's see. So what will he do? Okay? This is his cards. And there's plenty he could do now. This is a lot of trouble. Okay, this is even more trouble because he will do a lot more damage to this. But I'm worried about our mage there. Okay. Okay. And this one is... Okay, so I have 3 of this, and I'm going to, okay, so I could do this, because the issue is he's gonna attack someone else at the same time while he attacks me. So if I could bring him down, okay, if I could bring him down to a certain level, it will help. And I could use this to okay, let's see. What would I do? And okay, so you know what? I'm going to use 1 marshal. Okay. Or I could do that, because either ways it's going to do that. Okay, I could use all 4. And then he's going to do this. And what does he have? Just forgot. Okay, so he doesn't have, so he's gonna need help on that one. Okay, so you know what? So I'm going to focus on this guy. I'm going to say I'm going to do this. Okay, so very important that you first present the damage you're going to do. So I'm going to do the Marshal and the Deception for these 2 levels. And by the way, I forgot to do one thing. So let me put this cards right here. I forgot to do one thing. All right. This is the thing I forgot to put. So this pretty much dictates the level. And all right. Okay, so this is also for this. All right. So each opponent okay, and this one will have this one. Whew. This one really looks scary, but you're all killable to me. We have Goliath, or should I say Zatara. All right. Okay, and this is this. Okay, so let's pretty much lay it out. So now, again, so in this case, I'm going to put like I said, this two, right? So far. So this, I'm going to put this two, I'm going to do this two, okay? So one martial, one deception, as you can see right here. And so if you can see, this is one martial, one deception. It will bring it down to 2 levels, right? So now there's this left. So at this point I have 3 abilities. You know what? I'm gonna, it seems like, okay, this one needs arcane, that needs arcane, but that one's crazy arcane. So you know what? I'm gonna use this 2 because I'll need maybe martial. Okay, so I'm gonna use this 2 to bring it down another level. I won't be able to kill it. Okay, and nobody has here an assist. Okay, so pretty much the first thing it's going to do at this point, so these cards get discarded. It got the damage. Okay, and the first thing it does now, I'm going to put this in the discard pile. Okay. Okay, so that's my discard pile right there. That's my, okay, my discard pile. So I should kind of put it right there. What I do is like this, actually. It's better like this. So that's my discard pile. And now you do the next thing quickly. So you pretty much say this beast looms and a blinking dog, it jumps on you. It does 1 damage to you, okay? And it discard. Okay, after the blinking dog attacks, so after it attacks, okay, it did 1 damage to me, okay, it will go and discard the top card of the market. Okay, dokie, let's see who it is, and it's Deception, okay, Deception, as you can see by the color, okay, aside from the damage on top, which never can be used as a pointer, but this, okay, and it says, discard the top of the market card. Blink Dog also attacks that player whose primary color matches that card. Well, okay. So this card gets discarded. Okay. All right, I'll put it right there. And he takes 1 damage. Now, it doesn't say that he, you know, pretty much goes and attacks and is the new encounter and joins, in a sense, he's attacking him personally. He just took a cheap shot on him and teleported back. And the dog is still there facing off the Goliath, who is with his 2-handed sword going mad. All right. Now that you did that, you have no gold, but usually at this point you will be able to go to the market and try to lift some of your foggy memory and get something really good. But at this point you did not succeed in anything. So let's move on to the next one, which is him, the gold dwarf. And he, what he's going to do, he's going to pretty much look at his current equipment and go, and let's not forget he has his 3 gold right here. He's going to look it out and he's going to say, okay, so what can I do? I have 2 grace, 1 martial, and 1 cantrip, and 1 deception. So, and he has draw no cards or replenish. Oh, something I forgot to step. So let me rewind quickly. Nothing was done here, so no mistake. But now that he ended his turn, okay, after whatever cards you buy in the market, you also replenish your hand. If you have 3 or less equipments or cards in your hand, you pretty much take 2 new cards. And in this case, he'll take these 2 new cards, and they're 1 grace, and he's going to have a 2nd martial. Okay? So, now back to him. All right? So he's going to look here, and he's going to say, okay. Well, I could take this, and then I could do that, but I'm not going to have the deception. So I'm still going to take the down. So we're doing okay. In a sense, we're going to be able to, well, it's going to take more than a round, but unless I take him out and I leave him to him. Well, no. So I'm going to do the 1 devotion, and then I'm going to do all of this 4 to pretty much bring it down to this level. Okay, so I'm going to use all my cards, and I'm not going to be able to replenish my hand, which means I'm going to be totally useless the next hand. Okay, so I'm really putting myself in a bad spot, but I'm taking it all out just so I can pretty much settle the score and help as much as I can, because I'm praying right now, not ignoring you. And if I was ignoring you, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Interesting. Okay, so now that he did his turn, well, he's going to take the damage, and he's going to take 2 damage. Okay. Okay, so he's going to go down to 8. All right, and he will have, well, he can buy 3. You see, he can't replenish his hand, but if he buys something, he can bring it straight to his hand. That's very important. Obviously, you're remembering some of your old powers or your old wisdom. Anything that you obtain will go straight to your hand and not to your discard pile. So in this case, if that is true, he has 3 gold. Right now, the only card that he can buy is pretty much the green, that is this. Okay, I would have loved to save the gold for that, but in this case we need to take urgency, and this card gives him 1 devotion and 1 of any kind damage. Okay, so any kind meaning that 1 colorless damage. Okay, so this is a devotion card. Augury, devotion check, success, reveal the top Dragonfire and you may bury it. Meh, not care much for that, but I'm going to take that as I need it. Okay, so at least I could be a little bit useful the next round. I return that gold, and at this point it will be his turn. The arcane mage, Raceland. Hopefully he can do something to stop this tide of darkness. Now he's going to take his amazing abilities and power, because they're in the same dungeon and they're fighting off, and I can see from a distance Zatara fighting off a ugly looking dog, and at the same time my buddy there, the gold dwarf, is firing away with his warhammer at the orc chief, who happened to appear without his band, thank God for that. And I'm there alone fighting off this ugly looking roper. All right, as my buddy there, who's handling a swarm of skeletons. The other thing I need to check is, can he handle this swarm? And it seems he could. Well, he could eliminate at least 2 of them, and he can't do much to this. So maybe, but he needs to eliminate this first. So what do I do? So first things first, what he's going to do is he's going to help. You know what? He's going to help him. He's going to help his golden dwarf buddy there, because he needs that healer to pretty much stand his ground and not take the abuse next round. So he's going to help him, and put that right here to show that you used it. And pretty much this one is defeated, and it is 5 gold. All right, so this one is defeated. And the way it works with 5 gold is pretty much goes like this. So he would get 1 gold, 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 and he will get the other gold. So, and this one has been defeated. Well done. Now he still has time, and he could do action as he's firing away and handling and helping his buddies. He's now debating on the next opponent, you know, pretty much on what to do. And in this case, he's thinking, he's saying to himself, okay, he can help and save and do this blinking dog. It will give him much more gold. Again, there's not much items he can go and buy there, so it pretty much doesn't help him anything that's there. But by giving more gold to his partners, maybe they can buy something when, especially it's his turn, you know, and he could do something on his turn to pretty much help on the next round. On this round, obviously, when you buy it, it doesn't help at all. All right, because there's nothing for him arcane or nothing that he could use as assist because he's not in any shape on those classes to use them. So what he's going to do, he's going to take care of the... So you could do 4, 5, 6, 7. So pretty much if you wanted all of this 6, no, 4, 5. Let's see, 4, 5, but he needs 2 for that one. So I'm going to see, and he needs those 2 for that. Tough one. Tough one. So let's do this. And you can't damage that because you need to eliminate this. So, you know what? I'm going to eliminate the dog. So what I'm going to do to eliminate the dog, I'm going to take 2 arcanes, okay? And pretty much that settles the dog for him, all right? And that is, as remembered, 7 gold. Okay? Okay. So... So again, starts with him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. So it pretty much... So it goes 1, it goes around, it keeps going around, and at this point, so now at this point, sorry, I'm just trying to think. So because there's just so much going on. Roper here at this point is the biggest issue. We just eliminated those enemies, and finally he has some gold that will be useful, and he's just, you know, well, he's a mage and greedy, and not that greedy. He's a good friend of ours, and he's helping us very, very much. And this one is pretty much profiteering. Okay, so let's see what we're gonna do. So we got this 4. So what we're gonna do, we have an option here. We could help him, okay, or we could start tackling him and do the first level of damage. Either one, that one will loom, and that one will do damage to me. So it doesn't matter. So at this point, I say maybe we should help him to eliminate the enemy right now that he has in his face, because he's fighting that swarm of skeletons. I see him, and I can see the sweat on him as he's fighting off and swinging that dagger. I have to unleash my power, and I'm going to go and rescue him right now. So you know what? With that, I'm going to use 2 of this, which is 2 of my arcane cantrips, to unleash against this foe and slay the first 2 swarms in my way. Okay? Then, and the reason why I could do that is because there's one, I could need only to do 1 damage of any type, as remembered. Okay? Now, because I did that, the next thing I'm going to do, because now the main leader of that swarming skeletons just eyes me, but before he can lunge at me, I pretty much unleash my devotion grace, you know, upon him, and my penetrable cantrip, arcane cantrip, and pretty much obliterate him and pretty much rescue now. In this one sway, as you could see, what can you not do with a mage? He swayed and destroyed 3 of his opponents. Okay, so he used these 2 cards also. Okay, and luckily it's because he started with 7 instead of the 6, but either ways it's amazing. We're lucky enough, started with 5. Okay, all right, and he started with 5. So again, we didn't get to him yet, but he starts with 3. But let's remove this here. Okay, and pretty much he gives 4 golds. So let's see this. This one gets eliminated. Okay, so the next thing is this 4 gold. Okay, so let's do some change here, because everybody's gonna get 1 gold. So let's do 3. Yeah, then we return the gold here. 3, and this is 3. So let's do 1, 2, 3. Someone has to trade 3 of their gold, because we just I didn't take out all the one. Okay, here you go. So in this case, now because he did the kill again, he'll get 1. In this case, everybody gets 1, right? So and 1 and 1. Okay, so there you go. Team effort, well done. Now, well, the roper looks at him swinging, and he's trying to dodge, but with his sweaty brow, he notices at the final strike, the roper gets him and hits him for 2 HP, and he cannot have avoided that, and he's down to 3. With that, he used all of this on this round, which was an amazing round on his part, I would say. Okay. And because he has less than 3, he will take 2 cards. And in this case, it is this 2. Okay. And pretty much shuffle this, because you'll need to for the next round, even though you should wait. But at this point, you know you will be shuffling it. Okay. Okay, so that's that. Now, more importantly is, he took his 2 cards, he has all this gold, what is he going to do? Oh, I forgot when this was bought to put this here, but again, that's just useless to me, and I don't want anything. This sucks, but I really don't want to buy anything, because I'm more of this. Well, Raceland just doesn't want. He looks at it and he goes, that's not me. And right now he just doesn't recollect anything in his memory, and he will just pass on, and it goes to be his turn. But he just needs to survive that roper, because that roper will pretty much be very severe to him. So now let's go, and it's our fake Drist, and it's his turn. And right now what he could do is not much, because if you look and notice, he has 2 deception in his memory equipment tool, and 1 arcane cantrip. And in this case, that needs here, if you recollect, this requires 4 of any type damage, and we don't have that, and we're unable to do that, which is sad, but in this case that's the issue. So as everybody's free of hand, they're all lunging at the roper, but they're all swinging, and the roper is managing to pretty much get away. Because now I cannot do anything, okay, I'm going to pretty much, well, I'm going to end my, turn in a sense to say I cannot fight. I'm not going to fight. And I'm going to first replenish 2 cards, because I have 3 or less cards. So let's see. I get another deception. Nice. I like it. We're in deception. And anybody in deception? No? Okay. All right. We're the most deceiving character we got here. All right. Now that we're done with that, we can go to the market, and we can pretty much get what we want. And at this point, we'll go spend 2 gold, because that's the only thing we see on the market that we would want. Okay, and all right, stand up, little buddy. We'll take this. Now this is pretty neat. I think I explained it before. It does 1 deception. Okay, it's a deception card. Also a skill check on every one of your turn, pretty much you could do, well, as long as you have the card, because then it gets discarded, but you could do a skill check while you use this card to do damage, and pretty much success, you take 1 gold from the common pool, which is over there, and which you don't see, but it's off the board. But more importantly is you could use this also to assist, okay? But obviously if you use this to assist, you cannot do this part, okay? Hence why there's this line threshold here saying it's A or B, not both, okay? And obviously if you do this part, you could do this part together. But if you do the assist, this is irrelevant, all right? So either ways, you see, but do you understand? And this is the beauty. Once you pay the 2 gold mana or gold, then this card does not go into your discard pile. It goes right into your hand. And right now, this guy is very deceiving. I shouldn't call him fake Drist anymore. All right, we're going good somewhat. Now we have ended a round. What happens in this round, it becomes his turn again. But before he starts his turn, or before he takes any action, we have to take care of the Dragonfire. For now, as we pretty much loom more and more in this dungeon, slowly we feel the darkness smothering us as we try to fight this roper off. And here we go. And what can it be? Frenzy! So, your foes momentarily shimmer before your eyes as the effect dissipates. You wonder if you're still seeing things. They appear taller and stronger, their eyes filled with inhuman rage. Each humanoid encounter heals 1 level. Okay, we never had one, and we're all good. The attack strength of each humanoid encounter increased by 1. Well, again, crickets. Alright, and if it was the discard Dragonfire more 8 or greater, at that point we were really sleeping around the dungeon. Someone fell asleep or something happened, and the way the arcane raceland going, ain't gonna happen. So then this would take effect, and at this point I'm not gonna read the novel. So far both Dragonfire cards are kind of okay. Alright, nothing really life-threatening. So what happens now? Because he has no encounter, he has no encounter, he has no encounter, and they're all going crazy, mad, swinging at the roper, and nobody's striking. So let's see what we can do. So our mad barbarian, Zatara, he has not managed to strike anything at this opponent, all right, or do anything to him. But what he will do is say, I'll end my turn because my 2-handed sword is not hitting anything. And he's going mad. And at this point, he will say, I have only 3 of my equipment tools, but with my wisdom, I will gain 2 more. And at this point, he will gain 1 more martial, as you can see, and he has to shuffle this, and he will get whatever it is, and it's another martial. And that, before he ends his turn, he will use this 4 mana gold to go and see what's going on here. Now he has a choice. He could go buy the dual wield. Oh, sorry for that. He could go buy the dual wield or the headbutt. So what's the difference? So the dual wield will do 4 of any kind of damage, and pretty much if he pays 1 gold, he could split that damage however he wills for any number of encounters. Not bad for dual wielding with a 2-handed sword. Okay, but instead of, because he's a crazy barbarian, he could do headbutts all around, and sacrificing 1 HP, he can only regain the card back into his hand. So he can pretty much spam. And he will be able to do 1 martial and 1 of any type of the colorless damage. So, well, this will pretty much be very good in the next round, but I don't want to go to the next round. But the way it looks with all the cards that we have, we're going to go another round. So at this point, I'm going to say, I'm going to go for dual wield. Yeah, I might regret it, but you know what? I'm going to go for the dual wield. And oh, I forgot to reveal a card again. So maybe I'll buy something else. And what do you know? Oh, what do you know? Arcane, smelling fire. All right, so we're going to go for the dual wield. We're dual wielding. And okay. We will spend all the 4 mana gold to learn dual wielding. And it's going to be 1 added card to our pack. And here, hence, end of turn. And I'm still swinging madly at the roper with its tendrils all around. And I'm just not being able to hit the mark. Here comes his turn. Okay. Now, he could use this card, you know, to do a devotion check. And pretty much reveal the top Dragonfire card, and you may bury it. But, not worth it. Okay? So instead, he's going to end this turn. He's going to take the 2 cards, because he has 3 or less, right? And he's going to reveal that he has 2 more devotion cards, and he's a very devoted type, as usual. He also has 3 gold. Okay? And with that 3 gold, he can't spend it on anything, because this costs 4 gold. This would be really nice. It's a spiritual weapon. He can, if he's a devotion, you see this, anybody can buy this card and use it and for the devotion and 2 of any type of damage. But if you are a devoted class, which is this case, he can only assist with this card. And as you can see, specific class type reference devotion, class, assist do pretty much the same damage as an assist, which is freaking amazing. But he's lacking gold, which is surprise. Being a cleric, always giving it to the poor. Nice guy, nice guy. Just the wrong timing, especially when we need you to remember things. Now he ended his turn. Okay, so he's not going to buy anything because he can't afford the 6 gold and he can't afford this. And here we are to our amazing mage who cannot do anything either. So at this point, we're really in a stuck frenzy because we're really in trouble. So what he's going to do, he's just going to take 2 cards because he's going to try to remember himself how he got himself in this predicament, saving everybody, you know. And the scary part here, he will take another 2 damage, and that's the scary part. Okay, so he will take another 2 damage. Okay, so it brings him down to 1 health. Okay, all right, so that's very, very important. You see, this is something I could have done. Make skill check success, shift surprise to another player. I could have given it to another player, probably would have done better, you know, but in the end, it is what it is. He has 1 health, and pretty much he decided, I ain't going to do much. Now, the beautiful thing is, he has two arcane abilities that came to his foggy memory. Now let's see this. Let's see first how much gold he has. If he has pretty much 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's see. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This could end up in a very sweet way. So basically I could purchase both of these arcane abilities and they're going to go straight to his pocket. I mean, into his mind. And let me display. For this is 3 gold and this is 5 gold, and he has a total of 8 gold right there. And pretty much this one is magic missile, which you require an arcane class, and a cloud of daggers, which you require an arcane class, and evocation and conjuration. So this one, if he uses it just as you could see, it has nothing here. You could deal deal arcane damage to up to 3 different encounters. Wow. So one of this arcane cantrip, he could do it to 3 separate encounters. Okay. Now, he could do this an assist to deal 1 of any type to up to 3 different encounters. Okay. So, and then you got this, which is pretty much 2 arcane cantrips and 1 of anything. Cloud of Dagger requires arcane class. Again, requires arcane class. And we happen to be an arcane. Raceland is an all-time wizard. So, an assist. Arcane class, all colorless levels on 1 encounter this turn are -1. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay. Wizard class, all levels all colors levels on 1 encounter -2. Okay, this is interesting. So this can pretty much go to 0. Okay, but I can't. So we're either ways. Okay, so I pretty much acquired this knowledge right now, this in-depth knowledge, and made myself really powerful. Okay, but I paid a heavy mana price to it, and I'm pretty much gonna be really exhausted because I'm here already very badly wounded. Nobody came to my rescue, and I'm really worried as the way things are progressing. So okay, so now it's his turn. Okay, and let's see what he's going to do on his turn. Are you feeling the pressure right now? Because this is okay. So okay, so we're gonna do this. He's just gonna do a skill check, and he's gonna see if he's gonna get a gold. So he's gonna do that 1 damage, but before he does that, this wizard is gonna go crazy, and he's gonna say, okay, as an assist, all colorless level on 1 encounter this turn are pretty much, let me just check on something, are pretty much -2. So if that is true, okay, and that level is 2, so that's 2 minus 2, that's pretty much 0, so it obliterates that level, so he can pretty much skip, but it's sad because he can only go for those things. So okay, so let's use this. Okay, I don't know if it's worth using right now, and let me explain that. Okay, no, actually, let's use it. So he's going to use this ability because he's a wizard class. All colors levels on 1 encounter this turn are -2. Okay, so if that's the case, okay, if that is the case, well, that goes into the discard pile. Let's use this first. Okay, so it's used against this one. So that's -2. So instead of 4, it's 2, and that's 1 cantrip, arcane, and this one is 0 at this point because, well, 2 minus 2 is 0. So at this point, I'm going to need to do 2 damage, right? Okay, so I'm going to need to do 2 damage, and I'm going to do 1 arcane, which will bring me to pretty much below to that level. Okay, so because I can't do more. So pretty much it brings me to here. So I have to do all that damage here. So this will get discarded pretty much here. Okay. All right. Now I can't use the magic missile because it says deal 1 colorless to up to 3 different encounters, and pretty much I need a martial damage there. This was used and well used. Well, we're moving along. I'm just worried about Raceland. He's weakened himself as he did the most damage in this. I got admittingly so far in the 2 rounds, or he's been most effective. Now there's 3 cards on that, so you pretty much take 2 more cards. Okay, and that pretty much, again, we're going into the 3rd round, ladies and gentlemen. So pretty much we've gone further than expected, but this is 4 players going. Oh, and again, I keep on forgetting to pretty much bring in this. Ooh, a lot of martial class. And if you're wondering, no, I have no interest to purchasing anything. I know some will argue on that, but that's pretty much a personal decision because our adventurers and our groups are thinking, looking around and saying, well, what's going on around here? We're fighting this roper, we're bringing him down, but he's bleeding and his tendrils are falling, but he's still standing and swinging at us. Someone's got to do something. But at this point, our level of doom has gone and increased, as this is the second Dragonfire card that has gone down. Now we're looking at the third card, and let's see what it is. So at this point, this is where we stand. This card's moved to the side, and this is your cards right here. This is his cards, right? And this is his cards. That's the encounter we still have to defeat to finish scene 1. And this is pretty much his equipment. So the Dragonfire of this one is Homunculus at play. Quick little buggers, skulking in the shadows, always difficult to know if they mean you help or harm. Depends on the wizard what made him. Mostly I ignore them, barely worth the trouble it takes to twist their little heads off. At the start of each turn, the active player gains 1 gold and discards 1 card. Ooh. Okay. Let's finish it. Okay, so let's successfully. So at this point, if you remember what the Dragonfire card said, and let me reiterate it, it said at the start of each turn, the active player gains 1 gold and discards 1 card. Okay, so I gain 1 gold. To what purpose, I have no idea. And this card is not a random, so you get to pick. So, this is useless to me, so I'm going to discard the Grace card. I never believed in praying. I'm one bloody barbarian. Okay, so now he can begin his turn. And as he pretty much feels the dread coming closer, he takes a final swing at this ugly looking roper, and with his swing he's only able to do the 1 magnificent martial damage with his equipment and bring down the roper even more, and from there he pretty much ends his turn as he screams onto his golden dwarf partner there, mini-me, and tells them, do something about this. Alright, so it's his turn, and as it is his turn, he looks at him and goes, well, buddy, there ain't much I can do either, and he's looking at it and he's going like, I'm gonna sadly have to pass, and this is gravely ill for us. And he has only 3 gold, so he can't do anything anyways. So he can, and don't forget, he didn't take any cards because he has 4 equipment tools already, so he didn't heighten his equipment anymore. But because he has 3, he can pretty much take 2 more. Alright, and this you can shuffle again. Alright, so now it comes to you, and it always comes to you, and you're pretty much fierce as you are with your 1 HP and all the bloody work and tiredness that you are of all the things you've done. Here you are, you first with your cantrip take and blast away, then with 3 different encounters. So you can't use this because it has to be up to 3 different encounters. So you could actually use it all to do damage to him with this magic missile as you blast 1, 2, 3, and there you go, you will knock him out. And with that, you pretty much defeat the roper as it blitzes and hisses and it dies. And with this, there is 10 gold. So let's spread this out. This great wealth. Okay. Alright, so pretty much so it's gonna be So everybody gets 2 and he gets 4. So, all right, so 2. Sorry for that. I knocked you over. I'm knocking things over. And 2 over here. And all right, I did 2, 2, 2, and that guy takes 4. And he gets 4, and this gets discarded, right? All right. Just 1 second. Okay, that was refreshing. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so the roper here is defeated. Pretty much, we're ending the scene with him, but before that, there is 4 gold. And one thing I forgot to mention, and I made a mistake, that when you do not purchase anything, you get to discard a card from the market. Okay, so on my fault, but for future, just to note, I should have discarded a card. Even though you don't buy something, you get to discard something, so you advance always the pile, give the opportunity to the other characters. At this point, everybody keeps the card they have, and he has 3, so at this point, he will take 2 more to increase his card. Now we have arrived and we have finished this round. Okay, so at this point we've finished the scene. I mean, not the round, we finished the scene, and there's silence in the dungeon, in the room. And with this silence, we take a little rest, and this stays as it is, with the 2 discarded Dragonfire and 1 Dragonfire card still there. Okay, so that's very important to note, because when we start the next scene, okay, and we set up the encounters, it will be based on how many of the discarded cards there is, which is only in 2. Also, there's an advantage point. You cannot, also that card, by the way, because we finished the round before the next discarded card comes, this gets buried. Okay, so it does not go against us. But at this point, there is no there's no Dragonfire card, and in that case, what it means is it will be, because he was the last one to take turn, it will be his turn. So there will be 1 turn before it becomes his turn, and a Dragonfire card appears and takes effect for the next round. So we kind of gain there a round, if you can think about it, somewhat, a quarter of a round more. But in the end, it's more important to note the advantage, the strategy, as you can see, the depth that would happen. So let me kind of set it up and show you what would happen in the next round. Okay, but before anything, let's see what happens when you get a short rest, because right now we have finished the first scene and we're going to be advancing to the second. So before we discuss that, there's a short rest. Remove exhausted tokens. Nobody's exhausted. Hell, I think he's just been abused, not exhausted, which is totally different. Heal 1 HP. Okay, that's good. Let's start with him. I feel refreshed. All right, now he feels good. He also gains back 1 HP because he started at 9. Actually, he starts at 10 because he's got this woodsman ability. Sorry for that. And he, well, from 1 to 2, oh, the cleric better wake up, because we're going to lose this. Amazing. And him, well, he's going to gain HP, and he's been the most, I won't say useless, but I don't know. You should take lessons from Drist. That's all I got to say. All right. So, because we did this, because where we are with current cards, we're not, you don't reshuffle the deck. You don't reset everything. This is the new scene. You start with this cards. You pretty much continue with what you have. And now pretty much a new scene, a new round. You just start continuing from where you left off. So you have all these cards pretty much on the ready and on the go. Now also a very important thing is in the short rest, which it says purchase cards. As you could see, you could also purchase cards at this point. So we're going to go with him. He has 3 gold and he's going to go. I mean, the headbutt looks nice, but he's with his 3 gold. One thing I always discuss with my friend when I play with other players, I mean, we are buddies, right? We're trying to survive this dungeon. Sometimes sharing gold, and you know, it's a questionable, it's not part of the game rules. There's that, again, house ruling certain things. However fun you, with this depth of game, you make it however you want. I'm not recommending it. The rules are your gold is your gold. You don't split it, you don't share it. Awkward as it is, you are a party, a group, and adventurers looming in this dungeon. You want to survive, right? But I won't go into that. So I'm going to buy with my 3 gold, this with 2 gold, right? The amazing thing about it is, okay, it does 1 martial, nothing special. It gives you the 1 sword, which is useless to a barbarian. I won't get into that. But it does assist, and that's 1 martial and 1 of any color type, and that's amazing. And it goes straight to your hand. So I'm going to go and use this 3 gold. Okay, I never used this ability, like raging, but again, that's okay. So let's put this 3 gold away. So let's see, I purchased that, and that will bring this. Ooh. Yeah, okay, that would have been good. Flaming oil. Let me show you what this card can do. This card says pretty much deal flaming oils damage to each encounter facing 1 player. So that's the damage. All right. Oh, sorry for that. So now it's his turn, and he quickly will spend the 5 gold to get pretty much. I would love to get this healing thing. You see, if I could say, can I borrow gold here, buddy? But I could understand if you think of it as a mana resource gold, then it wouldn't make sense to share this. So he doesn't have enough. I want him to save. I want him to be able to heal. All right. You know, different characters, even though it's different, but you know, you can heal at 1 HP is 1 HP. It's a big difference, and he's a healer. Now, he could assist also to do this damage, which is also very good, and it could help a lot, so he could really tackle something that goes here. What would you buy? What would you buy? Okay, it's 5. You just need 1 more gold, and you could do it. So you could surely do it on your next turn around. Hopefully you survive, because... Okay, so... I'm going to say I won't. So imagine that it doesn't. So imagine he doesn't do anything. So it's his turn. He has 4 gold and he doesn't do anything. At this point, you don't discard any card. Okay. So on short rest, you don't cycle. Okay. And just let me reaffirm that quickly for you. And short rest. Okay, and it says, if you look quickly while we play this, play cards, starting turn, no, deal damage, and healing, no, short rest. So purchasing cards, starting with the person to the left of the player who entered the previous string. Oh, okay, oops. Each player may purchase a card from the market. Any cards that require, okay, obviously no. If chooses not to not make a purchase, do not cycle the market. Yeah, so I was pretty much right. So they don't pretty much purchase. You don't cycle the cards. You go to him now, and he's pretty much really wealthy. But he's only going to buy that one with 4 gold. So, and this one is the expertise card. It gives him 2 deception, and pretty much requires deception requires deception purchase. You can't buy this card from the market unless you play the deception. Oh boy, oh boy. All right, we'll leave it there because we can't do it anything. So nothing cycles, everything ends, nobody does anything. We're going to scene 2. And scene 2, the way you set it up before we end it all, it says as follows. Number of characters +1. But there was something in the encounter's rules that said, at the start of each scene, reveal encounters as indicated in the chart below, which is numbers of characters +1. That means there's 5 encounters. Okay? First reveal encounters from the secondary deck equal to the Dragonfire level. Okay? So that means the Dragonfire level currently is 2. So that means I got to go to the secondary encounter cards, which is this one, and take 2 cards out of there. So out of the 5 encounters that we got to face, 2 of them must be from the secondary. So let's see the first card, and it is a Wyvern. Oh boy. Weaker than their true dragon cousins, Wyverns are as likely to steal a lair as build one. Well, I hope you teach something to my thief, because either way, he can't steal anything so far. So, he pretty much will go to the green. As we know, the first card that you get, you always give it to the one that's matching. So it will be him. And he looks pretty much fierce. Then the next card, which will go to the mage, which is not that pleasant already, is, oh boy, that's the fire giant. Okay? So the fire giant goes to him. Let me put this away. So the fire giant, there's something special about this card which you have not seen before, and let me explain it quickly. You see that this is not circle like the other cards. Like if you see circle here. So if you look at this encounter quickly, this is 2 of any type circle, and this is 4 of any type square. What that means is pretty much that there's some abilities or skills that you may obtain, and those skills say that you can go and destroy a level of an encounter. And this is a whole level, right? This is 1 level, 2 level, 3 level, 4 level, etc. The square renders it immune from that ability or that power that you may have. So it means that you cannot destroy this level. You must actually damage it and fight it off. This giant, fire giant, is really tough as it is. Another thing that pretty much happens is this. You see this line? There's a little line. After you do this first martial damage, and right here you need 2 martial damage. You know, then there's this line. That means there's something that takes effect. And when it takes effect is strength, which applies to both attacks. And now if you didn't know what it means, in this one, pretty much also save +1 is like a skill check. But what it does, he can skill check twice. Okay? So this says that he does 1/1 damage, are 2 separate attacks. Any effect that stops an attack or reduces the damage must be applied to each attack separately. Save +1. And also strength, meaning applies to both attacks. Okay, so pretty much it increases his damage. Oh boy. Yeah, you can imagine what happens to this mage in the next round. Raceland, I hope you know what invisibility is. If not, I wish you luck. And now the next encounter, now the rest is primary deck, and it will be Cobalt, and this one has 3 tokens. Look at that. This Cobalt pack. So it comes with 3 tokens, and 1 of any type damage it takes, and does 1 damage. You need to eliminate it quickly, otherwise it does 4 damage. Okay? Alright, so what you would do is you would put 3 tokens right here to remind you that. Okay? And then for the final encounter, okay, and not the final, but there's 1 more after this, is the giant spider, which will go to the Zatara. And the final one, not the least, is a swarming zombies. Not that we didn't have enough issues. he gets a swarming zombies, and it has 1 blue token. Okay, and pretty much, if he doesn't take care of this, this will do 3 damage. This already does 2 damage. You could pretty much see how bad it is to have your Dragonfire level this high. Okay, and the effect it would have to build on scene by scene by scene. So you see the strategies, you see the damage, you see the gameplay, you see what you can do, you see all the variety, you see all the options. You can see already the board is all over the place because of everything that's going on. Not to say that, again, as you could see, I've been soloing 4 players, and fun as it is, you know, there's still much more things to learn from it. There's still much more things to do with it. I hope you enjoyed this semi-setup, semi-review. It's an amazing game. It's a phenomenal game. I think everybody will love it. It is challenging, but again, you set the rules, you set the guidelines, you set the fun. And also, more importantly, once you understand how to play, you understand what it is, you can pretty much set it where, like any game that we know, easy mode, normal mode, or hard mode. And at this point, this game I feel is much between medium to high level difficulty, but it is a fun game. As you could see, you see the option variety of the characters. You could see pretty much where you think he's the most useless became the biggest savior, and you could see where the others, on the other hand, had difficulties to pretty much punch out of anything. Not to say they were useless, but again, everybody plays different. And you saw some factoring of how you can play the storyline in Intel and make it something amazing and fun. And we did not even touch the campaign here. Don't forget, there's 2 amazing campaigns in this storyline with many adventures that carry through the campaign and advance the stories. There's many characters, there's many spells, abilities, skills, and features. And later on, as you develop this character, okay, and as you develop these characters and they become more powerful, okay, because at this point we started, don't forget, the second scene. So even with defeat, you will get 2 XP from this based on the current current rules, right, that we pretty much read. So based on that, you got 2 XP already. You can always try again, learn from your strategies, see what works. Again, it's sometimes the cards you get, sometimes the encounters you defeat, sometimes it's the chance, the luck, and the card of the draw. But again, it's what you remember, right? Raceland kind of remembered a lot of things. I'm amazed. I hope you're amazed and you liked what you saw. Thank you for watching, and I hope you come back and watch the other most amazing adventures on RP Gamefire.